Ladies and gentlemen, today we are making oak, tongue and groove. Before we get into it, please, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favour, subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video. I would be very much obliged. Let's get into it. Let's get some machines fired up. Right, tongue and groove. Let's keep this really simple. We're going to take two boards. This is in cross section. We're going to take two boards. We're going to resaw them, we're going to plane them, we're going to thickness them, we're going to square them, and then we're going to cut a tongue on one and a groove on the other. There is your tongue. There is your groove. The tongue goes into the groove. Like so. I cannot make it any more complicated than that, because that is how simple it is. So let's get into it. Let's get the bandsaw fired up. Let's get involved with the planer thicknesser. And then eventually, in a few minutes time, you'll see us on the router table, routering tongues and grooves, which is very satisfying. The fascia boards that we want for our gazebo are oak. This is the raw material. This is what we've bought from the local supplier. It's a 1 inch thick, kiln dried, rough sawn board. It's not square. It's not flat, you can still see the saw marks in it from the mill. The first thing we need to do is machine them all down, loosely speaking, to the same width on the bandsaw. This isn't the final dimension, this is just to get them all somewhere close. So, bandsaw. That's the resawing done. So these are all very loosely speaking the same width. The bandsaw does a pretty good job, but it's not perfectly accurate. It's not what it's designed to do. So the next process is to bring them down to thickness, which means we have to pay attention to what thickness they need to be. The cutters that we're using to put the tongues and the grooves on are these. These are designed to cut 18mm boards. Currently these are 20-ish mil thick, so they need to go through the planer thicknesser until such a time as they are all 18mm thick. That's dictated by these router bits. This is our planer thicknesser. It serves two purposes. It planes and it thicknesses, not surprisingly. So I'm going to set it up to thickness. There's probably a whole other video talking about this and how it works and how you use it and so on and so forth, but for today, or for now, we're thicknessing. Just a little pause in proceedings because the dust extractor is full. Now, Mark and I, Mark being behind the camera, say hello, Mark.
Hello.
Mark and I have a standing thing in the workshop that emptying the dust extractor is by far the worst, most irritating job in the workshop. So, and we both shirk, we both try and avoid changing it. So, what we're going to do now is flip a coin to see who is going to empty the dust extractor. Mark, adorn me with a coin, please. Heads you win, tails I lose. No, that doesn't work. The other way around.
Doesn't matter, it's double-sided. I choose heads.
So you're going with heads?
Yep.
I feel a bit, I don't know, I just don't like doing this. Right.
Get on with it.
Call heads.
Yeah.
It's tails.
That means you do it.
Does it? Oh. I don't like that coin. Here, have it back. Right, fine. It's not that bit that's irritating, it's this bit. You're gonna get it first time, you think?
No.
So far, so good.
Just wait.
Don't slip.
Can't be.
Have I got it? Oh! Thank you! That might not look like much of a problem, but when the bag slips off and it starts to misbehave, it gets really irritating. That went very well. Anyway, back to planing and things. So that is these brought down to dimension. They are now 18 millimeters thick and perfectly parallel. We've gone through the machine over and over again until we've got to our desired 18 mil. But we haven't dealt with the sides yet. They are not square and they are not straight. So we're going to reconfigure the machine to go over the top, which will allow us to put a square edge on in relation to these parallel sides. So we've got two parallel sides and one edge that's square to those sides. So there's one edge that still hasn't been touched by a machine since it went over the bandsaw. That's what we're going to address now. We're going to go back under the machine and bring all these planks down to the correct thickness. We can take quite a heavy pass now, which you'll see on camera in a minute, because we're only taking off 18 millimeters. So quick reconfigure of the machine. And we're ready to go. So we've dragged the router table out. This is a piece of kit in the workshop that doesn't get used that much, but it's very, very handy to have. Perfection is to have a spindle moulder. This is what we've got, and it serves the jobs that we need it to do very, very well. So the bits that we're going to use, one cuts the tongue and one cuts the groove. We're going to start by cutting the tongue on this one, so I'm going to put that in the router, bolt the router underneath the machine, underneath the router table, and crack on. So we've got the router bolted underneath the machine, and I'm just adjusting the height of the bit. I machined a scrap piece to the same thickness as our fascia boards, so that once this is all set up, I've got something to practice on before we go to the finished article. These bits are bearing guided. So the depth of cut is controlled by the bearing. The workpiece will run up against the bearing and that will stop the bit digging in too deep. I'm also going to set the fence just to keep everything as stable and steady as possible. So a bit of fine tuning on the bit depth and then we can have a go with our practice piece. There we go, look, that is the tongue machined perfectly in the middle of the board. Now I'm happy with the setup. We'll run all of these through and put a tongue on one side of each board. So that's all the tongues cut. Now we get to cut the grooves. So quick bit change, bit of setup, and off we go again. So what that leaves you with, after a lot of planing, a lot of machining, a bit of routing and a lot of sawdust, is one board with a tongue on and one board with a groove in, and they slot together. Just like that. So this is the fascia board for our gazebo that we're working on at the moment. Yes, we could have put tongues and grooves on both sides of these boards and stacked them up as high and as big as we wanted, but for the purpose of creating quite a deep fascia board, this is just ideal. Thank you very much for watching, folks. As I said at the beginning of the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.